In this video, I'm going to give you 3 things that I think you should really pay attention to and understand if you ever plan on buying or selling a house. Now, I'm going to give you just a cliff note, the short version, as I'm going to go into more detail on these 3 items in separate videos. But for this video, we're going to go over them pretty quick. The first thing I want to talk about has to do with getting a mortgage. Now, if you plan on buying a house, you're either going to have to pay cash or you're going to have to get a loan. And what I want you to understand is there's so many different companies out there where you can go and get a mortgage. And the biggest thing I want you to realize and understand as a buyer is that you can either go to a direct lender, and that means that the lender you go to is actually going to be the one that funds the loan. Let's say like you go to a big bank like a Bank of America or a Wells Fargo or a Truist or a Regions Bank. They're going to actually do your application, and they're actually going to be the ones that fund the loan. That means they have in-house underwriting, okay? That's really important. The underwriter is the final say-so and the final approval that you're going to need to get your clear to close. Now, another option for a lot of buyers out there is going through a mortgage broker. And a mortgage broker is just what it sounds like. They're going to broker your loan to different companies. Now, the advantage of using a mortgage broker a lot of times is going to be that they have access to many different lenders instead of just one in-house lender. But the biggest problem, and what I see happen all the time, is that when problems arise with the company that's going to actually fund the loan with their underwriter, these mortgage brokers, it's almost like there's a brick wall. They don't have a direct line of communication with the underwriting department. And that can be a huge, huge problem, especially if you're not using the best, most experienced mortgage broker out there. It can just cause you a lot of problems. And honestly, I see a lot of loans get denied towards the end, towards closing, for issues that really should have been discovered or brought out in the very beginning. So just realize that if you're going to get a mortgage, if you use a mortgage broker, they're going to be brokering that loan out to another company. My best advice is always, if you can, go to a direct lender. Go to a lender where they're actually going to fund the loan, like a big bank or a credit union. You probably pass 10 different credit unions or banks on your way to work every day. They're basically everywhere. But going to an in-house lender that does their own underwriting and their own funding will save you a lot of headache in the long run. So the second thing I want to go over has to do with real estate companies. And you know, the real estate market, the real estate industry is changing daily. It's changed so much over the last few years, and it's changing every single day. And it's getting more and more popular for a lot of these real estate companies to be virtual, okay? And what I mean by virtual, that they don't have a local office presence. So in other words, if you have a problem on your transaction, and you could be a buyer or seller, doesn't matter. This goes for both sides. If you have a problem in your transaction, and the only person that you know and talk to is your agent, and your agent works for a virtual office, which means they don't have a local office that you can go walk into and sit down with somebody, you're going to be having to get somebody on the phone. And I can promise you, that's not the easiest thing in the world to do. I'm a broker, and it's not easy for me to get some brokers and other, office managers or brokers of records on the phone. So if you're a buyer or a seller and you have a problem, and you got to remember, real estate transactions, there's a lot involved, and there's a lot that can go wrong, and deals fall through every single day. I mean, if you're going through a deal right now, just ask your agent, how many deals have you seen fall through? And if they don't say a bunch, they're not either being truthful or they're not experienced. Because if you've been in this business long enough, you're going to see deals fall through all the time for some of the craziest reasons. That's why using experienced agents, experienced vendors, experienced loan officers is critical, I mean, honestly, to get your deal done and get it done as efficiently and as smoothly as possible. So my advice is just be careful out there. I'm not saying don't use one, but if I ever was to move to a new city where I didn't know anybody and I had to buy a house and I've got to use an agent because I'm not licensed in that state, the last choice I'm going to make is going to be an agent that does not have a physical office, or they don't have a manager or a broker of record or the owner in that same area, that same city that I can get on the phone, that I can go meet with and talk to. I don't want any part of my transaction being involved with somebody who belongs to a cloud-based company without a physical office. You're just asking for disaster, especially if the agents don't have a lot of experience. It's just a nightmare waiting to happen. So the third thing I want to go over in this, and I don't want to ruffle feathers out there, but one thing you need to watch out for and understand is the whole concept of agent teams. And I'm not a big fan of teams. I think it does more damage and more harm than it does good for consumers. And what you'll hear is, well, I've got a big team of support. I've got transaction coordinators. I've got, admins. I have personal assistants. I have buyer's agents. Well, that's all great and wonderful, but I can promise you 9 times out of 10, it's more of a headache than it is a help. And you got to remember, there's all kind of different real estate teams. And, most of them, a good example is a husband and wife team. Well, that's 2 people. That's one thing, that's a little bit different. But if you're a buyer or seller and you're going to use an agent that belongs to a team, I'd ask some questions. I'd want to know, are you the team leader or are you a team member? Do you belong to a team? If so, how many buyer's agents does the team manager, the team lead, whose name's on the card, name's on the door, how many agents do they have underneath them? How many buyer's agents? Are you going to deal with the team leader or are you going to deal with the buyer's agent the whole transaction? Ask them who's going to get credit for the sale. That's something that the general public has no idea how it works, but typically, and I get these emails all the time, especially when I'm dealing with an agent that belongs to a team, somebody, let's say their transaction coordinator, will send me an email asking me to please make sure I put the team leader's name as a selling agent in the MLS. In other words, a buyer's agent working for this team member has done all the work for the last 30 days. They are the one that that talks to the buyers. They deal with everything involved in the transaction. But when they close it, the team leader takes the credit in the MLS for the sale. That agent doesn't get any recognition for the sale. And to me, that's absolutely ridiculous. So just be really wary of teams. And the negative that I really have with teams is the fact that instead of talking to maybe one person, you've got to deal with 3 or 4 people. I just had a transaction last month that was with the team, and I got asked one question by 4 different people in one day. And it's really frustrating because I don't run my business like that. I've been doing this so long and I know how this works, and I'm, pretty efficient. And most teams, they get away from that. What happens, what I see a lot of times, is the team leader becomes kind of, I hate to say this, but kind of fat, dumb, and lazy. And that's what happens. They're worried about more, going out trying to get more business and throw them in the pot and let everybody else deal with it. Well, to me, that's not a good way to do it. And I find that a lot of these team leaders of these big teams, their knowledge level does not get where it should. They don't learn enough because they're not involved enough. They're just trying to make more money by having more agents work for them. So, if you're a consumer, just ask these questions. I'd find out. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of agents, no matter probably where you're located in this country. And you can find one that does not belong to a big giant team. I would never use an agent with a big team. But just be careful and ask questions. All right, that's it for this video. If you have any questions, comments, leave them below. I'll be glad to answer. As always, I really appreciate it. Thanks, and have a great day.